Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland. So behind me is the statue of William Tyndale. You can see him there wearing his academic gowns, his mortarboard and so on. Then at his hand is the printing press. So William Tyndale is best known for being the first man to translate the whole of the Bible into English. So there was printing in China for about a millennium prior to that. And then William Caxton in the late 15th century had a printing press in this country, but the Bible was only in Latin. And then it was decided, well, Tyndale was one of those to argue that the Bible should be available in a language understanded of the people. Only about 20% of people were literate in those days. A few boys went to school, very few girls. And if you went to an ordinary school, you'd learn English, but if you went for more than a few years, pretty soon you'd learn Latin, because they thought nothing worthwhile is written in English. That's a peasant language. Official documents, any scholarly books, they are in Latin. So English is mere light entertainment in terms of poetry and plays. There were no novels back then. It didn't exist as an English literary form. So Tyndale came from a middle-class family in the countryside. He went to university, which was highly unusual back then. Less than 1% of the population went on to tertiary education. And he was a scholar of Greek. Now, John Wycliffe, in the late 14th century, he translated much of the New Testament from the original Greek and Aramaic into English. And he'd been protected by John of Gaunt. John of Gaunt was the uncle of Richard II. So because the king's uncle was John Wycliffe's protector, then Wycliffe, he died peacefully in his bed despite denouncing the Roman Catholic Church. Wycliffe had been a Catholic priest himself, but his protege made sure that nothing happened to him despite the church wanting him to suffer severe penalties. Anyway, Tyndale came along, and you think he was doing it at the right time, because the Reformation was spreading. Luther's 95 Theses being written in 1517 in Wittenberg. Were they nailed on the door of the university church or not? That's debatable, but they were certainly written. And then the Bible was in German, translated by Luther and others. And increasingly there was a movement, a reformist movement here in England. It was underground first of all. But 1533 was the break with Rome, under Henry VIII. And the break with Rome was a process more than an event. So it's debatable when the crucial year was. But Henry VIII, although he wanted to control the church, make it Anglican, in all other respects, he seemed to want it to remain Catholic, to be Anglo-Catholic, if you will. But Tyndale was abroad. He was in Belgium. He was in contact with so various Protestants there, had to be underground. So remember, Charles V was around at the time. Charles V was King of Spain and Holy Roman Emperor. So he ruled what we now call Spain and most of Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, a lot of Central Europe. Probably the mightiest man in the world back then. Probably stronger than the Emperor of China, given that he had fleets and so on. Anyhow, so that was officially a Catholic state. Tyndale translated the Bible into English anyway, was trying to get copies of it smuggled back into this country. He was caught by the authorities. That was heresy. He was tried. Heresy is a crime against religion. There was only one true form of Christianity. That was Roman Catholicism. Nil salus ex ecclesia was the dictum. There is no salvation outside of the church. So he refused to recant his beliefs, and he was burnt at the stake, as in tied to the wooden stake, while the faggots, that's the wood, not someone else, were lit around him. And his last words, God opened the King of England's eyes. He was hoping that Henry VIII would allow the Bible within English. Only a year later, Henry VIII relented, because yes, there'd been the Church of England, but the doctrines had remained almost all the same as under the Roman Catholic Church. And finally he said, okay, you can have the Bible in any language you want. Well, we can have it in English. And Henry VIII ordered that a Bible be placed in every parish church in the country. So there was some posthumous success. Incidentally, you notice the W on the pedestal for William. But something else to note, Henry VIII actually changed his mind back a bit later, because there are bits in the Bible which says that kings are fantastic when the children of Israel petition the Lord Almighty to give them a monarch. And the bits where they say that kings are very bad. You know, you had, obviously, King David, the adulterer, and King Saul, things ending badly for him. So what I found fascinating, and this was put up in the late 19th century, when there was sort of Bible mania, Victorians are very moralistic Bible bashers, is who contributed to putting this up. Okay, the British and Foreign Bible Society, that's not surprising. The two great universities, Sunday School Union, blah, blah, blah. British Foreign and Sailors Union, well, they'd want their Bibles. one of the most spiritual eras in British history, well, after the Middle Ages, a moralistic time, various county councils, the Polytechnic Young Men's Institute. So a lot of these institutions were tinged with religiosity. But right down the bottom we've got Belfast, Ireland. Notice that it's a northern Ireland because it's long before the partition of Ireland was seriously considered. Dublin didn't contribute anything, being a mostly Catholic city. That's possibly why. Remember, the whole of Ireland was part of the United Kingdom in those days. So these gardens date from the late 1860s, and this was put up sometime afterwards, not exactly sure when. So that's William Tyndale, a figure who's well worth finding out about. So Henry VIII later changed his mind again and said, better not have the Bible available in English, better remove it. So although most people were illiterate, if it was read aloud to them, they were able to comprehend it. Right, I shall switch it off now.